Hi. Hi, everyone. It always says that my connection's weak, and I don't know what that means because whatever, I'm online. Hi, everyone. It's Leslie Seidel here, but if you're watching this, you pretty much know that because you're in this group. So, so right now I get to stay here and hang out while Facebook builds an audience. So a bunch of you said you wanted to be here today for this talk. I am super excited about this talk. And so I get to wait for some of you to show up. And 38 of you guys said you wanted to come, which, is really sweet and lovely. And my goal in these talks is to, so I can see myself doing this online at the same time. It's crazy. My goal in these talks is to really give you what you want, right? So that's what I want to do here. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to teach you guys whatever it is you guys want. That's the purpose. The purpose of my work here is to be of service. And so I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity. And there's one person. So for those of you watching the replay, you can go ahead and fast forward a little bit from the beginning because I'm just going to wait for people to show up. I can tell you that today, this is a little dorky, but I just figured I'd show you anyway. Today I got my new Halloween leggings. Let me see if I can show you. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Do you like that? They're bat leggings. They're leggings with bats on them. And I'm super pumped about them. And I don't even know why I'm so excited about them. I'm not one of those people that wears leggings all the time. But they're really soft. And I just thought they're my little nod to Halloween. So who's on there? It doesn't tell me who's on there. Say hi if you're here and let me know where you're from. I'd love to hear from you. I'm just giving it a couple minutes to see, because a lot of people wanted to join. I want to make sure that they had an opportunity to get on. So that's what I'm doing right now. So who's on there? It shows me that someone's watching me. You don't want to say hi? You can lurk. It's totally fine. Okay, so let's just get started. Let's see, someone else is on there. If you want to say hi, please let me know where you're from and what's going on. Today we're talking about spirituality and dating. It was such an interesting thing. It's like, yeah, let's talk about that. And it was, yes, Tabitha. I don't want to get involved in that whole rabbit hole, but absolutely. They're super soft. So it's, spirituality and dating is when I put it out there, I was like, yeah, I love talking about both of these topics. And so it was really easy for me to say that, and to watch everyone want to have that conversation was exciting. Yeah, me too. But it also is a really big topic, right? It's what do you want to know exactly? So when I started actually writing this talk, and when I started thinking about exactly what you guys wanted to know, what came forward was that I can do a talk about this once a week for 10 weeks and still only scratch the surface. So let's kind of begin in the beginning, right? So what is spirituality? The entire, yay, Lisa. So excited you're here. So the topic of the group is spiritual journey to your soulmate, right? So that's the title. So the reason I chose that was I really wanted to make it clear that a spiritual life and a spiritual journey is part of this process. And if that's something that doesn't ring true for you, then I'm not your gal. And so what is spirituality? So I looked it up, and it said that Webster says that spirituality, the quality or state of being concerned with religion or religious matters. The quality or state of being spiritual. So, let's take a moment to go there. So what I want for this group, and what I think is so important for everybody, is that with spirituality, your spiritual path is whatever it is for you. And if that means that you're a Christian, great. If that means you're a Buddhist, great. If that means you're Jewish, great. It's a personal, and then that means if you're Wicca or not any of the above, that's great too. And so it is such a personal thing that I want everyone to be welcomed here. I want everyone to feel invited here. And I want everyone to have an open dialogue about how they have a spiritual life and how they utilize it in the dating place. So the two things I'm going to talk about, which I think many topics came forward, but the two main topics that I wanted to talk about today are spirituality and faith in the process, right? How do you use your faith? How do you use your connection to spirit as a way to be on this journey, right? It's such an intense journey. It's such a personal journey that how do we continue to remain in faith while we are in this process? And the other topic we're going to talk about a little later is what does spirituality look like within a relationship? How do you bring it up? When do you start talking about it when you're dating? What is important to you? So those are kind of the two topics we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. So the idea of spirituality, faith in this process, so many people have this intense faith, have this beautiful desire, and don't know how to utilize it in this process. There's so much rejection and so much fear when it comes to dating and to what we want. And, I know personally there was a couple things that I had, which is I don't have a relationship with a higher power where I felt like it was Santa Claus. Like I really wanted to stay in a place where it wasn't me saying, okay, God, this is what I want. Now here's my list. Give it to me. Does that make sense? Is that something that you guys see? It's this idea that I'm writing a Christmas wish list for what I want, right? I'm going to be doing a 2-week intensive on how to manifest your partner. And it's interesting to see so many of my clients when we talk about manifesting and when we talk about working in conjunction with God and with our spirit for what we want, we get in this place of like, I wrote a list and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let God give that to me. And in some ways that's true. And in some ways that's a part of it, but it's not completely it, right? It's not the total package. A higher power does work in your life. A higher power does work in my life. I get to see all the ways that a higher power works in my life, but it's also not something where I get to be passive participant in. I don't sit back, relax, do nothing while God does all the work. And I remember this wonderful saying, like God will do for you what you cannot do for yourself. The flip side of that is God will not do for you what you can do for yourself. And so that's the key. How do we show up and do our 1%? That's the part, right? So I go on a date and I do all of these things and I need to make sure that I'm doing my 1%. So many of my clients end up when they have a faith, they either go completely out of faith and get so scared and terrified, and I'm going to take the closest man here because there's no guarantee I'm going to have the relationship. Or they get into a place where they're like, okay, well, God's got it. I'm just going to sit back and do nothing, and I'm going to wait for God to ring my doorbell. And while I absolutely believe that God can ring your doorbell, I also believe that there's a 1% for me to show up. Does that make sense to you guys? So it's my job to say, this is what I want, and to get clear on what I want, and to remove any obstacles I have for it. So many of the women in this group and so many of my clients are dating people who, they're okay. They're just placeholders. They know that they're not the man for them, but they're going to still date them until he comes along. Well, the problem is there's no room for him, right? Or her, sorry. If you date women, there's no room for him or her if you have someone on the side. And so it's part of the process is to start to stand for what I want. Part of the process is to start to say, okay, so my part is to get as healthy as I possibly can. My part is to get clear on what I want and ask for what I want. And when I see and am with someone who is not what I want, to say no to that. And that's where the faith comes in, right? That's the leap that we have to do. That's the leap that I have to say, okay, you're not right for me. You're alcoholic, you're narcissistic, you're all of these things. I am learning how to stand in my faith and say, this is what I want. And I'm also learning how to spend time with my higher power. So when you're manifesting and you're asking for a higher power to do something, I do quiet time. And during quiet time, I ask for information. What do I do next? Show me the next right appropriate thing. If you want me to go left, have me go left. You know, there's so many places that I utilize this in my life, and what I get to see is that so many people do this in their world and not do it when it comes to relationship. And so now you get to start to apply that. Does that make sense to you guys? Give me a sign that you guys are understanding what I'm saying. Okay. So the other thing I do know to be true is that my higher power and my relationship with my higher power has 3 answers for me. Yes, not now, and I have something better for you. And what I can see looking back are all of the ways in which I have been taken care of, all of the ways that my higher power has removed things from my life that were not serving me and made me ready for my partner. And I see it happen over and over again with my clients. So it's one of those things that, like, how do we have faith and spirituality in the process? Is that we get to consistently over and over again show up and say, this is what I want and this is what I deserve. And my part is when I see it not showing up and when I see not what I want, then I have to go. When I know that my higher power said I need to turn left and I'm just not doing it, I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid of rejection. I'm too afraid of hurting the person. He needs me. All of that stuff, that's when I know I'm in trouble. And that's when I know I'm not allowing, like, my will is happening versus my higher powers. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was, how do you have a spiritual life or a faith in a relationship? So the first thing that my clients do, and the first thing that we need to get done, is you need to know, what are your deal breakers? What does it mean for you? So I have a client who only wanted to date, like, she wanted to marry a Catholic man. She was Catholic. She felt really strongly about her faith. She wanted, like, one of her dreams was to go to mass and with her husband. And so it was super clear to her, and that was great. So when she put it out there. She put it out there on that level. She talked only about, like, this is what I want. I'm only interested in dating Catholic men. And there's no reason to date any man if you know that they're not what you want. So she really stuck to her guns about what she was looking for in a partner. And that's how you get it. So for me, I have a pretty rich spiritual life. I like to talk about it. I wanted to raise my child in a faith with prayer and with dialogue about, what a higher power is. So for me, my deal breaker was that my partner had a spiritual life. Now, I didn't care what it was. He could be Jewish, he could be Catholic, he could be Wicca, he could be whatever he wanted. All I cared about was that he had a path and that he knew what that path was and that he was dedicated to that path. And that's exactly what I got. I got someone who is dedicated to his path, who prays with me in the morning, who meditates with me, and who understands how important this is and how important it is for my son and I. You know what I mean? Like, how important it is to teach this to my son and to allow our son, not my son, our son, to allow our son have access to this that's super important to me. So the first part is, like, you need to get clear on what's important to you. So what do you want? You know, we've talked about this. What do you want and how do you want that to show up? So then the topic is, when do you bring it up in dating, right? So when do we bring it up in dating? That's such a great topic. So many people, so many of my clients, when they start to date, get really tight, right? They've got this list now. Excuse me. Oh, they've got a list of what they want. They're starting to get clear. They're manifesting. They're doing quiet time. They're doing meditations. They're envisioning their life together. So then when they meet someone, they're like, are you what I want? And they get really intense about it. And they get to space of like meeting the other person, like on the first date. Do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Because if you don't want these things, I'm out of here. And that kind of energy isn't what we're looking for when we're dating. You know, all you're doing when you're dating is listening. You're listening to see who they are. You're listening to see if you want to go on another date. And you want to make it light and easy. You want to make it something that you're having fun. And so for me, when I'm dating, like when I was dating or when my clients are dating, it's about being curious. Listen to who they are. And so instead of saying, look, I want to get married and I need to know right now if you're Catholic and if you want to get married. No one wants that energy. I don't want that energy. You don't want that energy. No one wants that energy. And so instead, while I'm dating, as it's appropriate, as I'm getting to know you, I get to start to have a conversation with you and say things like, you know, hey, are you religious? I mean, it's the same kind of thing that I would say, like, where do you work? Do you like to work out? What are your hobbies? Right? Like, just use it in a light way. In the beginning of dating, we're not getting into the scary place. We want to keep it light. We just want to gather information. You know, you just get to say, like, what are you looking for? Like, do you have a spiritual life? What does it mean to you? And watch their reaction. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, if I have a spiritual life and it's important, a lot of my clients have Jesus as their spiritual life and are Christian. And if you want a Christian man, then you need to know that. And so you get to say to them, hey, you know, do you go to church? And if so, what church? You know, if you date women, if you want a Christian woman, then that's great. You also get to know that you can go to places where these people are. So yeah. So when you're dating, keep it light. Please have some fun. You know, it's such a weird space kind of in between where you both want to keep it light, keep it easy, as well as pay attention and listen to who they are. You know, I think the biggest problem with dating is a lot of women are so wrapped up, myself included, was so wrapped up in making them and hoping that they liked me that I forgot to see whether or not I liked them. And that's the focus. Do I like you? Do I want to go on another date with you? Are there any red flags and how do I remove it? So that's what I was planning on talking about. I am super excited. I'm in the middle of creating a 2-week intensive for manifesting a life partner. And I will let you know more details. It should be ready in a couple weeks. If I get it all together is the goal. And so if that's something that sounds interesting to you, let me know. And does anyone have any questions? Hello. So no questions are coming up. If you have any questions or if there's something else you want me to talk about, please feel free to go ahead and type it on in the replay. And I'm happy I'll go in afterwards and look to see if there's anything else that you guys want me to talk about. This is, again, a big topic, and so I'm happy to go into more detail and talk more about things that you guys want to talk about. You just need to let me know what it is. So thank you so much for showing up, and thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything, if you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. All right. So bye, ladies, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll be talking to you soon.